the execution that ended peace. The Galactic Council chamber had been designed to inspire awe and obedience. Rings of levitating seats curved around a central dais, each occupied by representatives of species that had ruled the stars long before humanity learned to burn hydrogen efficiently. Blue holograms of star systems pulsed softly in the air, and above them all loomed the sigil of the Galactic Empire. Ancient, absolute, unquestioned. At the center of the chamber knelt 3 human women. They were bound at the wrists with glowing energy restraints, forced to their knees on a floor of cold alloy. Their uniforms were torn and scorched, metals dented but still pinned in place. Blood had dried into the fabric where plasma burns had failed to cauterize cleanly. None of them looked down. General Mara Cade knelt in the middle. Her back was straight despite the weight of chains pulling at her shoulders. Silver streaked her dark hair, and her face bore the calm of someone who had already faced death more than once. To her left was General Aisha Rahman, younger, her jaw clenched tight, eyes blazing with contained fury. To her right knelt General Elena Volkov, her breathing slow and controlled, as if this were merely another battlefield briefing gone wrong. They were not afraid. The reptilian High Executor of the Galactic Empire stood above them at the dais, his scaled hands resting on a podium that glowed with imperial blue light. His voice carried effortlessly through the chamber, amplified and absolute. "Generals of Earth," he intoned, "you stand accused of violating the 9th century peace compact. Your species has expanded military production beyond permitted limits. Such defiance cannot go unanswered." A murmur rippled through the council seats, alien observers watching history unfold, many with thinly veiled satisfaction. Humanity had always been the youngest power at the table, loud in words, restrained in action. The Empire had tolerated them out of convenience, not respect. General Cade lifted her head slightly. "You never inspected our worlds," she said evenly. "You never asked. You decided." The High Executor's slit pupils narrowed. "Silence. You will accept judgment." A representative from a minor avian species fluttered his wings nervously. "High Executor," he chirped, "the compact requires." The Executor raised one clawed finger. The avian delegate fell silent. "Earth's protest has been noted," the Executor said coldly, and dismissed. Across the chamber, recording drones adjusted their angles. This was not merely justice, it was spectacle. A message to every species that might one day consider challenging imperial authority. General Rahman laughed softly, a sound sharp enough to cut. "You're making a mistake." Several council members leaned forward, amused. The High Executor inclined his head. "Your species is fond of threats." "It's not a threat," Rahman replied. "It's a warning." The Executor gestured, and the chamber lights dimmed. 3 energy lances materialized behind the prisoners, humming with lethal intensity. The sound alone made several delegates recoil. "By authority of the Galactic Empire," the Executor declared, "you are sentenced to execution." General Volkov closed her eyes, not in fear, but in something like sorrow. Not for herself, for Earth. General Cade looked up at the recording drones hovering above the chamber. She knew, as they all did, that this moment was being broadcast across human space. That families, soldiers, children, and leaders were watching. She spoke clearly. "Earth kept the peace," she said, "even when you tested it, even when you mocked it." The High Executor snarled. "Enough," Kate continued, unbroken. "You mistook restraint for weakness." The Executor slammed his claw against the podium. "Fire." The energy lances discharged in unison. Light flooded the chamber, white, violent, final. The blast vaporized the chains first, then tore through armor, flesh, and bone. The shockwave rippled outward, rattling seats and silencing every sound. When the light faded, 3 scorched marks stained the floor where the generals had knelt. No bodies remained. For a moment, the chamber was perfectly still. Then the High Executor straightened. "Let this serve as a reminder," he announced. "Peace exists by our permission." The broadcast cut. On Earth, the feed ended in silence. In command bunkers buried beneath mountains, admirals watched without blinking. In city streets, crowds stood frozen, fists clenched, tears falling without sound. In orbital stations, soldiers removed their caps and bowed their heads. No one screamed. No one panicked. Deep beneath the surface of the planet, systems long dormant came online. Shipyards that officially did not exist unlocked their doors. Artificial intelligences restricted by treaties were unshackled. War doctrines labeled theoretical were quietly reclassified as active. A single encrypted message passed through every human command network, authorized at the highest possible level. Protocol Black, restraint terminated. Above Earth, the stars waited, unaware that the Age of Mercy had just ended. Earth goes quiet. The galaxy waited for Earth to rage. Imperial analysts expected the usual human reactions: angry speeches, emergency summits, fragmented outrage echoing across fractured political blocs. The Galactic Empire had studied humanity carefully, or so it believed. Humans were emotional, divided loud. When struck, they protested. When cornered, they negotiated. Instead, Earth went silent. No transmissions flooded the galactic nets. No diplomats demanded justice. No fleets mobilized in open view. Even the human news networks, so famously chaotic, broadcast nothing but static memorial images of three names etched in white against black. Maracade, Aisha Rahman, Elena Volkov. Imperial confidence swelled. They are in shock, declared Strategos Vale of the Empire's Fourth Armada. Decapitation strikes work. But beneath Earth's calm surface, the world had already shifted. Deep below the Himalayas, in a chamber that officially did not exist, the Unified Command Council convened. There were no flags in the room, no national symbols. Only people. Admirals, generals, civilian overseers, and artificial intelligences whose cores glowed softly behind armored glass. At the center of the table hovered a hologram of the Galactic Empire's territory. Vast, sprawling, overextended. Admiral Jonas Hale broke the silence. His voice was steady, devoid of anger. The Empire has executed 3 uniformed generals under a false charge, in violation of every treaty clause. A civilian representative swallowed. If we retaliate, we will, Hale said simply. No one argued. General Secretary Lin May activated a secure channel. Protocol Black is confirmed. A chorus of acknowledgments followed. For centuries, humanity had lived under treaties written by older species. Limits on fleet tonnage, restrictions on autonomous weapons, oversight on artificial intelligence. Humanity complied, not because it lacked capability, but because it chose survival over dominance. Protocol Black was the admission that survival now required something else. Across Earth and its colonies, industries shifted seamlessly. Commercial shipyards received new blueprints and old permissions vanished. Mining platforms stopped exporting and began stockpiling. Research stations powered up sealed laboratories, doors opening for the first time in generations. Even civilians felt it. Not fear, but certainty. Military AIs, once capped at advisory roles, were granted operational autonomy. They did not celebrate. They calculated. In the council chamber, a young officer hesitated. Do we send a declaration? Admiral Hale shook his head. No warnings. What about evacuation corridors? Civilian. We do not target civilians, Hale said, but we do not pause for them either. The Empire chose the battlefield. Across the room, the hologram shifted. Human fleet icons, hundreds of them, blinked into existence, not from Earth's orbit, but from deep space. Hidden docks, asteroid-buried shipyards, mobile construction arrays that the Empire had dismissed as industrial debris. Humanity had not built one fleet. It had built many. On Mars, a memorial service took place in silence. 3 empty podiums stood beneath a crimson sky. No speeches were given. No vows were shouted. The crowd dispersed quietly, returning to work, to duty, to preparation. In orbit, Captain Imani Okoye stood on the bridge of the carrier Resolute. She watched as her crew moved with disciplined efficiency. No one needed orders. They had trained for this scenario in simulations labeled unthinkable. A message appeared on her console, command level clearance. Engagement authorization, total. She exhaled slowly. All hands, she said over the intercom. We are no longer constrained. There was no cheer. There was relief. Light years away, the Galactic Empire finally noticed the change. Human trade routes vanished from scanners. Communication buoys went dark. Long-range sensors detected gravitational anomalies. Fleets moving without broadcast signatures, without transponders. Stratego's Vale frowned at his tactical display. Where are they? They're not posturing, his aide said slowly. They're positioning. At the heart of Earth Command Network, a final message was drafted. Not to the Empire, but to every human unit across known space. It was brief. They executed our leaders. We execute the war. The order propagated instantly. Engines spooled. Weapons charged. Human ships slipped from shadow into motion. Not toward borders, but toward vital nodes, shipyards, command nexuses, hyperspace relays. The galaxy would later argue about when the war truly began. Historians would agree on one thing. It began the moment Earth stopped asking permission. The doctrine of merciless war. The first human strike did not announce itself with fire. It began with absence. Across the Galactic Empire, hyperspace relays failed within the same 60-second window. Navigation beacons went blind. Quantum communication nodes collapsed into static. Entire sectors found themselves suddenly isolated, fleets drifting without orders, worlds cut off from command. Imperial technicians panicked. Humanity called it Phase 1, disconnection. In the bridge of the carrier Resolute, Captain Imani Okoye watched the tactical feed update in clean, precise lines. No explosions yet. No casualties. Just systems dying quietly. Phase 1 complete, reported the ship's AI, voice calm, almost gentle. Empire command cohesion reduced by 62%. Proceed, Okoye said. Phase 2 arrived with violence. Human strike groups emerged from hyperspace inside defended systems. Not at planetary orbits, but directly above shipyards, fleet anchorages, and logistics hubs. Precision rail barges tore through dry docks. Directed energy pulses melted fuel depots into expanding clouds of fire. Automated repair stations disintegrated before their defense grids could fully activate. Empire warships scrambled, confused, firing at ghosts. Human ships did not dogfight. They killed infrastructure. An Empire admiral screamed for reinforcements that could not hear him. His fleet's ammunition reserves vanished in a controlled fusion detonation. His command cruiser lost power, then gravity, then hope. Across 100 systems, the same pattern unfolded. Humanity was not conquering territory. It was removing the Empire's ability to wage war at all. At the Imperial High Command, Stratego's Vale stared at a hollow display, flickering with red alerts. This is not retaliation, he hissed. This is doctrine. A junior analyst whispered. They're not striking where we are strong. Vale's jaw tightened. They're striking where we must be. Humanity's war doctrine, once dismissed as theoretical, unfolded with ruthless clarity. Every target was selected by layered analysis, strategic value, recovery time, psychological impact. No strike was wasted. No gesture was symbolic. Except one. On every destroyed facility, on every blackened hull, drifting lifeless in space, a single data packet was transmitted on all open frequencies. 3 names, 3 service numbers, 3 medal citations. The Empire tried to jam the signal. It failed. Why show us this? Demanded an alien counselor during an emergency session. A captured human transmission answered before anyone else could. So you remember who you killed. Empire counterattacks finally coalesced. Fleets converged on a human task force near the Karen Belt, confident in numerical superiority. Plasma salvos filled space, lighting the void with violent color. Human ships adjusted formation. They did not retreat. They folded inward, letting Empire fire pass through projected decoys while autonomous strike drones, unrestricted, adaptive, lethal, swarm from unexpected vectors. Enemy targeting systems lagged a fraction of a second behind evolving algorithms. That fraction was enough. The battle lasted 9 minutes. When it ended, the Empire fleet was gone. Disabled ships drifting, command vessels shattered, survivors broadcasting surrender codes into the dark. Human ships did not respond. They moved on. Stratego's Vale watched the aftermath in silence. His claws trembled. They could have annihilated us at the border, he said slowly. They chose not to, his aide replied. Vale understood then. They want us to feel it, he whispered. Every system, every loss. As reports flooded in, the pattern became undeniable. Human forces bypassed population centers. Civilian transports were ignored, even escorted away from conflict zones. Hospitals were untouched. Refugee corridors were left open. Merciless did not mean mindless. It meant unstoppable. An Empire philosopher, conscripted into military analysis, summarized it with shaking mandibles. They are not fighting from hatred. They are fighting from conclusion. At last, the Galactic Empire transmitted a priority signal on all channels. We request immediate ceasefire negotiations. There was no reply. A second message followed, desperate. The Empire acknowledges error. Reparations will be discussed. Still nothing. On Earth, Admiral Hale watched the feed with detached focus. They are seeking proportionality, he said. General Secretary Lin May nodded. They still think this is a conflict. Hale leaned forward. It's a correction. A final Empire transmission broke through, routed through civilian channels, raw and unfiltered. Why are you doing this? The voice demanded. What do you want? The human response came at last, broadcast calmly, without threat or triumph. You executed our restraint, the message said. Now you face its absence. As the signal ended, human fleets advanced deeper into Imperial space, toward shipyards still burning, toward command worlds stripped of defense. The doctrine was clear now, to the Empire, to the galaxy, to history. Humanity had not unleashed rage. It had unleashed finality. The price of execution. The Galactic Empire did not fall in fire. It fell in silence. Human fleets surrounded the Imperial capital system without crossing its inner defense perimeter. Thousands of ships formed a distant ring around the star, engines idle, weapons cold but ready. To the Empire's remaining commanders, it was far worse than an attack. It was containment. Stratego's Vale stood in the shattered command hall of the capital spire, watching human fleet signatures hang in the void like a judgment that did not need to speak. The Empire's guns could still fire. Its world still lived, but it could no longer fight. Open all channels, Vale said quietly. A human response came immediately, crisp and controlled. A secure corridor opened through the encirclement, wide enough for one unarmed vessel. Terms, Vale rasped. We will surrender. Name your price. The human envoy arrived aboard a single ship, small, unadorned, bearing no weapons visible. It docked without escort. Vale expected soldiers. Instead, the delegation that entered the spire wore no armor. They were civilians, jurists, ethicists, and military officers without rank insignia. At their center walked Admiral Jonas Hale. You executed 3 uniformed generals under a false charge, Hale said, voice steady. This war exists because of that choice. Vale bowed his crested head. Then execute us. End it. Hale shook his head. That would be mercy, he replied. The tribunal convened not on Earth, but in the ruins of the Galactic Council chamber, the same hall where the executions had taken place. The scorch marks on the floor had not been cleaned. They were left there on purpose. Imperial officials were brought in chains and placed where the human generals had knelt. Recording drones hovered, broadcasting the proceedings across the galaxy. Not as spectacle, as record. Each charge was read aloud. Fabricated evidence, treaty violations, abuse of authority, execution without due process. The Empire's leaders offered excuses. Fear, precedent, tradition. The tribunal listened. Then judgment was delivered. The Galactic Empire was dissolved. Its military was dismantled ship by ship, system by system. Its centralized governance stripped of authority. Its research into superweapons permanently banned and overseen by a multinational force led by humanity, not as rulers, but as enforcers of limitation. The officials who ordered the executions were not killed. They were sentenced to live, exiled to a monitored world, cut off from command, stripped of titles, condemned to watch history move forward without them. Every cycle, they would receive reports of rebuilt worlds, of new alliances, of an empire that no longer existed. Vale understood then. Execution would have ended their guilt. This would not. Across the galaxy, reactions were swift and fearful. Ancient powers recalculated treaties. Younger species studied human doctrine with new eyes. Neutral worlds began rewriting laws around one simple truth. Do not mistake restraint for weakness. On Earth, the war ended without celebration. 3 stars near the galactic rim were officially renamed. Cade, Ramon, Volkov. At their dedication ceremony, no weapons were fired. No speeches glorified victory. Children placed their hands against the memorial stone, feeling the names carved deep enough to last centuries. Admiral Hale stood apart, watching Earth's sun dip below the horizon. General Secretary Lin May joined him. History will call this war many things, she said softly. Hale nodded. Let it. A final message was transmitted to the galaxy, archived in every major archive, translated into thousands of languages. Humanity does not seek dominion. We seek certainty, the certainty that those who abuse power will lose it, the certainty that peace is upheld by responsibility, not fear. The message ended with 3 names, not as a threat, as a boundary. Far from Earth, the former imperial capital dimmed its lights for the first time in 1,000 years. In that darkness, the galaxy understood what had truly changed. Humanity had not risen to rule the stars. It had risen to set limits. And for the first time, the galaxy believed them.